Hi, welcome back to Bazaar Morning Call. This morning we have plenty of stocks to talk about. Of course, we're the only market in all of Asia. Markets are shut because of the Lunar New Year. So we don't have any great cues from there. But plenty of stocks in our own markets that are moving around. Dr. Reddy's actually has some news flow going for itself. So Ekta joins in first up to tell us what we should expect from Dr. Reddy's this morning. Ekta?
Thanks, Sonia, for that. Well, important news which is coming for Dr. Reddy's, but it was expected. So, for example, there is a particular drug called Suboxone, which is an anti-drug addiction drug, which, is one of Indivior's most important drugs in their portfolio. And Dr. Reddy's had launched it earlier last year, but they had to withdraw it because of a preliminary injunction against it to basically launch that particular drug. So now what has happened is that eventually, after a lot of litigation, Indivior has lost the bid for re-hearing in this particular Suboxone case. That means that Dr. Reddy's is likely to launch Suboxone in the US markets anytime soon. But what they make depends on the competitive dynamics. Remember, it's a $750 million drug. It's a very lucrative market because it's an anti-drug addiction drug, and that's a huge problem in the US. But there is a likelihood that there could be 4 other companies that could be launching the drug at the same time as Dr. Reddy's, and hence they could dwindle down in terms of an opportunity. But so the street is estimating a range of anywhere between 30 million to 75 million in terms of what Dr. Reddy's could make. The range is wide simply because nobody knows the competitive dynamics at this point in time. Nonetheless, positive news for Dr. Reddy's.
Okay, positive news for Dr. Reddy's. Ekta, thanks a lot for that. Now, Dr. Reddy's is at an all-time high. Just, of course, it's happening within the market these days. The stocks which are in a strong bull market keep getting good news. And that's Dr. Reddy's for you.
The height of contradiction in terms is anti-drug addiction drug.
Okay. Anyway, Lata, there's some fresh development on this IL&FS issue?
Yeah, actually yesterday the NCLAT held a hearing, and what they have said is that the government and the IL&FS interim management should appoint a judge. They mentioned the name of a retired Supreme Court judge, D.K. Jain, and ask him to look at a list of companies which have enough escrowed money and therefore can service their debt. So they've actually asked the government to make a list and call them green, amber and red. And green companies being those that have this 12-month solvency, they will be able to meet and service their debt. So, it'll take time first to meet the judge, agree to the terms, and then he looks at all the data, you present him. It's not that like it's happening tomorrow, but it's an initial good news. Definitely for the mutual funds, many of whom are senior creditors, as well as some of the banks. So maybe some of the public sector banks, in particular, banks like SBI, BOI, could see a little bit of green on their IL&FS exposures.
Okay, well, let's move on. A couple of weeks back, I did go to Big Bazaar and it was completely packed. And then I thought Kishore Biyani is making money hand over fist. And I was right. I mean, look at the numbers. Looking pretty good. Mangalam joins in to tell us about future retail. Mangalam, how did it look?
Well, it looked good, and it couldn't be more in line with what the street was working with. The street was working with a good set, no doubt about that. So 5,300 crores that the company posted in terms of the revenue. The street was working with about 50 crores. So give or take some change, absolutely in line. EBITDA at 278 crore. Our poll threw up a number of 272 crores and margins at 5.2%, also in line. What did the company post on the bottom line? Well, 201 crores. The street was working with a number of 204 crores. Now on to the same store sales growth. Perhaps your visit may have added to this quarter's SSSG, Sonia. 5.9% is what the company posted. 6% to 7% is what the street was working with. Again, in line with Big Bazaar, same store sales growth growing it at 10.1%. Now on to the positive news for future retail. Remember, the stock is a fair amount off its record high. The promoters now believe that this is value, so they've infused funds to the tune of 2,000 crores at a price of 505 rupees per share, which is about a 13-14% premium to the current market price.
All right, Mangalam. Well, everything was right about that except Sonia saying that she went to Big Bazaar. So.
Oh, I wouldn't make that up. You know that.
Sonia, please.
No, I would never make that up.
Okay, anyway. Sonal, Balrampur Chini's numbers look good?
Yes, absolutely. The stock should be in a sweet spot today. Very strong numbers coming in. Where the operating profit margins, they expanded by 610 basis points. The profits also increased by around 95% on a year-on-year basis. And this was majorly led by the distillery segment, that is the ethanol segment, where the EBIT was up 200% at 93 crore rupees. The distillery EBIT margins also increased by 4100 basis points. So a lot of growth coming in there. And the average realization for distillery increased by 5% on a YOY basis. The sugar recovery also improved to 11.11% versus 10.15% on a YOY basis. So overall, very good set of numbers. The stock should see some green today.
Okay, thank you very much. Good to hear sweet news from Baraburchini. The next stock on our radar, Godrej Agrovet. How were the numbers, Mangala?
Well, I thought the top line growth was positive, but it was the margins which underperformed. So if you take a look at the numbers, 19% growth that the company posted on the top line did not percolate to the bottom line. In fact, the net profit declined by about 17.5%. And that is primarily on account of the fact that the EBITDA grew just by 4% on a 19% top line growth. So what took the net profit lower or the EBITDA margins lower? The mainstay business of the company, animal feeds. Out there, the operational performance was weak, 40% decline in the EBIT, and that means a margin halving of close to 3.1% from 6%. So see some red on Godrej Agrovet.
No. All right, Mangalam, thanks a lot for that. Anisha, IRB Infra?
Well, I read for IRB infrastructure as well, because while the top line growth came in at 250 crores better than estimates, the margins really disappointed, came in at 42% versus 48% expected due to the change in product mix, and that led to a tepid profit growth of just around 6%. Citi is not at all enthused by the numbers. They maintain the sell call due to the premium valuations, and in fact they've cut the target now to close to 140 versus over 180 earlier. Back to you.
Okay, thanks for that. So margins disappoint for IRB Infra. We'll try and find out more later in the show. But Sonal is with us to tell us about some stocks that are in the news this morning. Hi Sonal, morning.
Hi, morning Sonia. Well, I'll start with IOL Chemicals. That stock is in focus because they have a board meet on the 12th of February to consider issue of securities on a preferential basis to the promoters. That stock will be in focus today. Other stock that I'm watching out for is Bharat Financial, because the company has informed the exchanges that they have completed 7th direct assignment transaction worth 750 crore rupees in FY19, and so far they've been able to complete direct assignment transactions worth 5,400 crore rupees in FY19. IEX will also be in focus because they have reported a volume growth of 7% sequentially and average price growth of 4% sequentially. Also, they have announced a buyback of 37 lakh shares at a market price of 185 rupees. This compares with current market price of 162 rupees per share. So the stock should see some green today. Back to you.
Okay, thanks for that. Anisha is with us also to give us some other results that came in post-market hours. Anything that stood out, Anisha?
Oh, well, yes, I have an entire list. I'll start with Greaves Cotton because the numbers came in a tad bit better than estimates when you look at the top line. However, there is some pressure which is evident on the margin profile. So we'll talk to the management more about that. KEI, the strong revenue growth really continues for the company. The company has now guided to meet the upper end of the revenue guidance for FY19, which is close to 20%. And even this quarter, the revenue growth was 22%. SRF also reported very strong set of numbers. The revenue and the profit were ahead of street estimates. And look at the profit growth, up around 26%. Titagar Wagons also reporting good set of numbers. Remember, they had took delivery of 2 vessels, and that is what boosted their earnings. Hence, a profit jump of around 50%. But all was not well when it comes to the earnings, because Shrey Infrastructure reported a weak set. Remember, the disbursements are down 34% year-on-year basis and 35% quarter-on-quarter basis. So very weak performance coming in from Shrey Infra. And Spark as well. The losses continue for Spark, as well as the R&D investments continue. And it's a poor performance on the top line with just a growth of around 2.5%. Back to you.
Okay, thanks Anisha for that. Well, in case you're wondering why we didn't talk about Anuj's stocks, we decided to save the best for the last. Anuj, what are the stocks you're looking at?
So, 2 red stocks today, Sonia. I think the mid-cap underperformance is going to continue for some time because the sentiment is just way too weak right now. I think the way to approach this market is to look at companies where high shareholder is pledged and there's problem with the financials. I think CG Power is one of them. 100% of the promoter shareholding is pledged. Interest cost is higher than the EBITDA. And the stock is down 18% this year. The threshold is the 52-week low, which is 12% from here. So that's going to be the one. And I think IDBI Bank, ever since that open offer was over, there was one reason that IDBI Bank was somehow holding 60 because the open offer was at 61. Now that carrot is out of the way and the stock has slipped and we've seen the numbers, they remain quite weak. So now, of course, it's going to be what IDBI, LIC Bank or IDLI Bank or whatever it will be, but it is, my sense is it's now going to underperform a bit.
Okay, well, on that note, let's do a quick recap of our top stocks that you need to watch out for today. Stocks with positive news flow: Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, SBI, Dr. Reddy's, Future Retail, Balrampur Chini, IOL Chemical, Bharat Financial, IEX, Greaves Cotton, KEI Industries, SRF and Titagarh Wagons. While stocks with negative news flow this morning: Godrej Agrovet, IRB Infra, Shrey Infra, Spark, CG Power and IDBI Bank. We'll take a quick break on that note, but on the other side of the break, we have some technical tips coming up. Ashwini Gujral, Sudarshan Sukhani and Mitesh Thakkar will be our guests.